Batman Forever left such a bad taste in my mouth. I have been scrubbing and scrubbing all day. I still can't get that nasty Joel Schumacher taste out of my mouth. But anyway, you know what they should call the sequel to the film we're talking about today? Instead of instead of the Bone Temple, which comes out 28 weeks in exactly 28 weeks, they should just call it 28 inches later.
You like that, old man? You want a piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do? You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Welcome to a new episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. This is episode 354, and this is 28 years later, and that's what we're talking about today. The highly anticipated third part of a so far trilogy in this zombie apocalypse type series. If you guys have not listened to us before, welcome. This is a new episode. I am your host, Juan, and I am joined by the cast, the crew, the infected, Zach.
I'm safe. We're good. We're good.
Jay.
I wouldn't say I'm safe from being infected.
Is it just me, or since we talked Batman Forever, it feels like forever ago since we talked about a movie?
It does. It does.
I've erased that from my mind, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
See, a couple of weeks ago, we went through about a week ago, we went through a traumatic experience where we watched a Batman movie. But I see you've gotten it out of your brain. Good trauma blocking.
Yeah, good trauma blocking. There's a good week, but it has been an exhausting long week. I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's just the fact that the summer heat's wearing down. There's construction literally on every block in this Oklahoma City area. Speaking of Oklahoma City, congratulations to our Oklahoma City Thunder on winning their first NBA World Championship.
Hell yeah.
So,
did either of you go to the parade with the 8 billion other people downtown today?
no. Am I insane?
I slept through it all.
There was over 600,000 people there. There were people popping up tents late last night, yesterday afternoon. Zach, that just sounds like a headache. That sounds like I'm about to enter a 20 years later episode.
Did you happen to hit it up today?
Zach,
What'd you say, Jay?
Did you happen
to go to it?
No. I work downtown, and I kid you not, I had coworkers that literally parked where I parked, which is like in the OU Medical Center area, and walked all the way to that area. So good for them, but this is probably going to be a hot topic, but I don't like parades, and so that really I could just catch the highlights on TV.
Seen them? I was there, I guess you'd say, since I've seen them.
Zach, was it hard getting to work or from work because of the parade?
No, from work, it was typical Tuesday evening. Getting to work really wasn't that bad. I get to work I start about 7 o'clock in the morning, so I have to be there about 6:30, 6:45, and you could already tell like the line of cars was out the door and around the corner. But by the time you got through like past the Paycom Center, it really just mellowed out. You could tell people were like parking everywhere, but past Paycom, it was a smooth ride.
Yeah, I don't mind going to like venues and concerts and stuff like that. I'll go to stuff like that, but I don't know about especially with what we're going to in today's universe with everything going on politically here in the United States. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, and this is not a political podcast, but with everything that happened over the weekend, I was just like, I don't know if a big group of people like that is a good idea.
Speaking of political, we're about to get into the fun month of July, and usually July at this podcast is full of barbecues, wieners, hamburgers, and summer movies. But this year, it's so different. I'm so glad to talk about a movie next week, a childhood favorite. It's episode 355, 4th of July episode. We're talking all about Angels in the Outfield. Um,
But after that, it is all theatrical releases for the rest of July.
why don't you let them know, Zach, what we're talking about in July?
Yeah, July 1st, like Johnny said, we're talking about the childhood classic. This will be a first time watch, so I'm kind of curious about it. Angels in the Outfield with Danny Glover. July the 8th, we go back to starting July the 8th, we go back to the theater. We're going to cover Jurassic World Rebirth. July the 15th, we're talking about the new Superman, James Gunn's reboot, I guess you would say, for the DC universe. July 22nd, we're talking about the requel of I Know What You Did Last Summer. And then we end the month of July, July 29th, we talk about Fantastic Four First Steps, our final movie of the Marvel for the rest of the year until I think Doomsday next year. So, and then August 5th,
I know. I think we should do Ironheart completely.
I think that starts up today, doesn't it?
I don't know. I was just trying to be facetious a bit because I've heard nothing but bad about it. So I figured, if you want to have a little bit more Marvel fun, we could go watch
And then to preview a little bit of August the 5th, Happy Gilmore 2. So I know you're really excited about that.
We're ready, man. Happy, happy, happy day. So,
But before we get to those, we got to talk about today.
We are going to talk about today, but before we get into today's episode, like I said, you guys can listen to everything that we talked about last week. You can get in all the bat fun, the bat humor, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. Last week was Batman Forever, so those links are in our social media. Anywhere you look in the social media, facebook.com/the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Instagram is all one word, Cine-Men Movie Podcast. And the Twitter, formerly known, or X, is the Cine-Men 405. And then, of course, you can email us at cinemen921@gmail.com. So go ahead and hop in that mailbox along with other bill collectors and doctors' visits and everything else you can get into. But yeah, so hit us up, listen to some past episodes, like, share, and subscribe on this YouTube page, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to. So,
and if there's something that we haven't discussed that you've noticed through our library that we haven't discussed yet, and you'd like us, send us your ideas. We're always down to take them. So communicate with us.
Yeah, we've even canceled episodes that we originally had planned and reviewed something that the listeners wanted to do. So, by all means, I don't think we're going to do it next week for the 4th of July episode because, gad nabbit, I want to talk a Matthew McConaughey movie that he's only in for 30 seconds. But
everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you know what? If there's somebody out there who just really is not interested in the I Still Know What You Did or I Know What You Did Last Summer sequel, that's going to be coming out in theaters, what should we bump that movie with? Is F1 still going to be in the theater? So if there's a movie that anybody wants to just get Predator ripped out of their body, that would be the movie to do it to. So, but guys, let's dig into some recent watches and recommendations. You guys can follow all my recent watches on the Instagram page at Cine-Men Movie Podcast on Instagram. I think I kind of had a slow week. Yeah, this would probably be slow for me. I binged watched 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later. I went and saw The Materialist in theaters, as well as 28 Years Later. I mourned over the thought of Tony this week because I really missed Tony in The Sopranos. So I mourned over that. And then I checked out Straw because so many people were inboxing my messages, my comments, my email. they wanted to get my thoughts on Tyler Perry's latest movie on Netflix. And then I checked out Zach. I think it's because all the pictures you've been sending me, but I watched Jaws today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and God nabbit, I just forgot how great that movie is.
Oh yeah. Do you want to
I
preview what we might have in store later this year?
Yeah, it's going to be an episode in August. It's now going to be the only second movie that we've ever done a revisited episode on. The first being Psycho. So in August we're going to talk about Jaws, but it has been.
And here's a little thing for you guys right now for that episode. It'll be a first time watch for me.
You've never seen Jaws, Jay?
I've never seen Jaws. I have. There's just been, and I don't know what it is. It's just one of those movies I've always put off. It's not that I don't want to see it. It's just been one of those that I've just put off. It's like, yeah, it's Jaws. Okay, cool, whatever.
Well, I think it'll be the perfect first time watch because I think we're going to go see it in theaters together.
Oh,
Yep.
that sounds very cool.
Yeah, so
The way it was intended.
yeah, they're going to
Yeah.
re-release it for its 50th anniversary. So I think that's what we're going to do, and it'll be either a week 3 or week 4 episode for August.
Awesome. Hey, I can handle that.
So, but yeah, if I listen every day in the life of any American right now, or not just any American, but any person in this world is a struggle. And my review and my thoughts for Straw is, I gotta applaud Tyler Perry for trying to put a original film together to, whether you want to call it a cultural film, a historical background film. I don't care what you want to call it. If I'm just looking at it as a movie on my television, I thought it was okay. I gave it a 2.5. I don't think I would have any rewatchability to it whatsoever, just because it's an hour and 45 minutes and it dragged once she got inside the bank. It felt like he was trying to do a falling down version of John Q, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then he wanted to sprinkle in mental abuse, and some other things, but it just
Too overwhelming.
it wasn't overwhelming, because I've seen movies where the score was overwhelming for me and I still like that, but the big positive that comes out of it is Taraji
P. Henson.
yeah, Taraji P. Henson. Her performance is really good.
Was it just overhyped, I guess?
Not really overhyped. Man, how can I put
I've
it?
heard it. I've heard the couple of reviews I've heard of it is that there's just too much stuff going on, and the movie is too congested.
There is a lot, and you only see Sinbad in it for like 3 scenes, but I enjoyed seeing Sinbad in the movie. If I don't know if I had to put it, this movie just leaves a bad taste in your mouth because of all the negativity that's going on in the movie. It's like, if anybody can relate to this, it's probably 90% of Americans today, but it also didn't make for a very good movie, if that makes sense.
Pressure for an hour and 45 minutes is not so you're
Well,
saying it's not the best way to go.
Yeah.
Well, and let me ask, not to sound like, I feel like this is going to sound like insensitive, but did it feel like a lot of his other films where thematically it's kind of the same thing over and over?
The cast did, because I know he used a lot of the same cast members, but even then the cast members were just really dry. Like the young ladies behind the bank receptionist desks, the bank manager, the 2 female cops, or the female and the male cop that were leading the investigation. It just felt watered down, if that makes sense. It felt like a daytime TV movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, it is for Netflix, so
Yeah. But on the other hand, I miss the hell out of Tony.
like I told you, I sent you a message and be like, look, man, it'll be okay. You get a prequel series soon, so
I can't wait for that prequel series. I think I'm gonna watch the mini.
have you watched the movie?
I'm gonna watch the movie this week, but to cure this whole thing, I might just have to go on a James Gandolfini binge.
there you go.
Yeah.
There's some interesting titles in that
Yeah.
little. filmography
So-
of his.
Jay, I'll bet you $50 right now. Before this year is up, he will be watching The Sopranos again.
I'm almost shocked that he hasn't restarted it already. Because I've done that with the TV show before. I was like, okay, I watched it. Now what do I watch? And I'm like, oh, the hell with it. I'm just going to rewatch it again. And I've done that with the Big Bang Theory, weirdly.
if I had to recommend anything, go out to the theater, go check out 28 Years Later, go check out The Materialist. I thought that was a fantastic movie.
Did you like it?
I did like it.
Did you-
And then Straw, it's on Netflix. It's easy to access, so go check that out as well. Maybe I'm wrong.
Real quick, and we might talk Materialist if we do a 24-month later this year. Did you get what I was saying about how it did a very good depiction of like modern dating?
It was, but if you can afford that for modern dating,
But I'm just talking about like how we just like we urge for the material things and not like someone that actually cares about us. That part of it.
oh yeah, for sure.
When I get to my recent watches, I'm going to do a different spin on this one.
Go ahead, Jay. Go. You're next.
All right. I watched The Materialist and I watched 28 Years Later as far as movies go, but the rest of the time I've been kind of binging some TV shows and some wrestling. I've been going back there. I recently got a code from a buddy, and he's a wrestler, and going back and watching some of his old shows that he's been on through GCW and other independent companies on there. So I've been watching a lot of deathmatch wrestling, which has been pretty interesting to say the least. I've started watching My Name is Earl. If you guys have never watched that show, highly recommend it. It's got Jason Lee, Ethan Suplee, Jamie Presley all in it. Excellent show about a guy who does bad things, makes a list, and allows karma to fix it. And so it's hilarious. And then I watched some more King of the Hill, and then now to The Materialist. I thought the movie was shallow. There was no likable characters in the movie. I don't know if that's the way it was supposed to be, but I also was even kind of like, how do they friend zone Chris Evans? Like, how is Chris Evans the friend zone guy? Like, how? You know, it was just I went with in a blind watch with this. It was one of those, I didn't see no trailer. I didn't know what it was about. You know, I thought some of it was, you know, like, oh God, this is gross, because I am dating in this current era, and it sucks completely. It completely sucks where, you know, it does matter if you are 6 foot tall or 5'10", but once you bring up something else, well, I can't say change something, but can you change this? You know, how much do you weigh? Oh, and they get mad, you know, shit like that. But and that movie kind of goes along and plays with all those different tropes. And I just didn't feel for it, because I was like, no. And I didn't have any, none of the characters were likable to me. That's my review of The Material.
So, well, I don't want to get into spoilers, but I was going to tell
That's my watch
Zach.
list.
I was going to tell you, Zach, my what I thought was going to happen at the end of the movie, but since I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it.
Yeah. Like I said, we might do that later this year for A24 or something like that. So, my recent watches, it's very short. I don't have a list like last time. 28 years later, obviously, and then my big watch, which I had never seen, and it's celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. Brokeback Mountain. I've never seen it. I've never seen it. My view on this movie, looking back, I think this is a very powerful, well-written, well-directed, well-acted film. The cinematography is great. The score is incredible. And obviously the two performances of Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, and even including Anne Hathaway and Michelle Williams. Unfortunately, I think this movie, two things about it. One, I think in the time when it was released and back in 2005, it was the oversimplification of, oh, it's the gay cowboy movie. And people didn't really want to give it the chance that it deserved in the time. And it's incredible how much that film set the tone for queer cinema, essentially, from that point on and now.
You're saying if that movie came out today, it'd be much bigger of a hit than it was then.
It would have been much more bigger of a hit, and it would have won best. It would have won Best Picture. Honestly,
I mean, it got nominated.
it did get nominated. A lot of people thought that that was one of the big controversies of the
But
film. It
but
lost
with
to
as
Crack.
many more films out there for the community, would this just be considered a regular, just common thing, if it was made today,
Yeah, I agree with that, Jay. I think this would just be like another.
Well, we've seen this story before. It's
Yes.
just,
Yes.
it'd be one of those situations.
Yeah, and back then, I think that's why it's still relevant given the time it was made. Is that I I don't think anyone else could name like a queer type movie back then, and I think that's why its reputation has lasted this long is because it is it's much more than that. It's actually a very really well made movie, honestly, and it really sucks. Anytime I see Heath Ledger in like one of these like really good performances, I was like, God dang it! Like, imagine the career he would have had after Dark Knight. I mean, it's really sad to think about. So yeah, those are my two recent watches. 28 years later, go see that in theaters, and then Brokeback Mountain, which I think
How'd you see it?
I rented it from the library. I think it is streaming. I think it's on Amazon Prime. I think so. I think if you have that, you can see it. And AMC Theaters is having a 20th anniversary showing.
I seen on the Regal app that they were having a showing of it at the Warren here in town as well.
Yeah, the Warren and AMC, they're doing special 20th anniversary showings. So,
and that's another one I've never seen.
I'm gonna check out the new Daniel Craig movie that came out last year called Queer.
yeah.
It's a new A24 movie. I'm very interested in seeing that. So
You just got that in the mail. Is that correct?
I did.
Really?
Thanks to a rabid listener. So today let's get into the 28 inches. I mean the meat and potatoes of today's episode.
Same
Yeah.
We are talking 28 years later. With a IMDb score of 7.2, a Rotten Tomato score of 90%, the Metascore is 76%, and the Letterboxd is a 3.6 out of 5. With a budget of $60 million, opening weekend, it's made a little over $62 million at the box office. A group of survivors of the rage virus live on a small island. When one of the group leaves the island on a mission into the mainland, he discovers secrets, wonders, and horrors that have mutated not only the infected, but other survivors. Starring Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ralph Fiennes, Rocco Haynes, Harriet Taylor, and directed by Danny Broyle and written by Alex Garland. I think we've only seen this movie once. So, using one small phrase, Jay, you go first. What did you think when the movie was over?
Yeah, it was one of the cooler things that cooler aspects of the whole thing was I was like it looks gorgeous for being shot on an iPhone. I'll give it that. It looks completely gorgeous. We'll get that out of the way right now. That the movie was shot on an iPhone 15 or 16 Pro, and it looks gorgeous.
Which is insane to believe.
But story-wise and everything,
Zach?
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think this movie's incredible. I thoroughly really enjoyed it.
I'll probably be the one in between. I thought it was good. I really want to see it on a second take. But if I had to say one word after just the first viewing, I would probably say unique. So, if you guys have not seen this movie 28 years later in theaters, go check it out. We're at 24 minutes and change into the episode. Pause it, go see it, come back, give us a listen, or just listen to it. Listen to us, spoil it. Maybe it'll make you want to go check out 28 years later. So
we'll eventually let you in on why that joke is so funny. All right, it is because there is a very large distraction in this movie that plays from halfway through until the end of the movie. a very large distraction.
Zach, was Samson your favorite infected?
Well, I was going to say the Alpha, but sure.
Well, that's his name, Samson.
Oh, that's his name. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what Ralph Fiennes' character names. He's like, I call him Samson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we just get that out of the way real quick? The big distraction is there's just one zombie that is absolutely huge, scary, does some crazy, horrendous stuff that they show you. He like rips skulls. It's like Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat 1, just grabbing them by the throat, ripping their heads out with their spinal cords. And all you can see is his wang. This dude has one of the hugest members I've ever seen on an actor, and it's just there. It's like every scene, just this big flopping wang in the wind. It's like, what the, yeah, there it is.
I heard it was a prosthetic.
Prosthetic or not, man, that was very distracting when he was on screen.
It was like watching Watchmen.
Quite literally.
Speaking of, all forearms aside, did this movie not feel like a Predator movie at some point?
In some points, yeah, I would agree with that.
And then including the Alpha, where he just would rip out the spinal cord. And I'm like, geez, is that a Predator? Is this a crossover?
If we would have heard some clicking and seen some heat ray vision, then yeah, you probably could have had a crossover. Could you just imagine like having it from different points of view? You see the son and the dad, they're out for their first hunt so that way the son can learn. Because that's essentially what this is. The father is taking his son out for the first hunt. And he's trying to teach him how to kill the infected. And so that way his generation can continue on and make sure the generations below them are safe. So you could then cut to on the other side of Predator and just heat vision.
So am I the only one that is kind of the only reason I'm a little on the fence? I thought the movie was great. Don't get me wrong. Cinematography was great. The kills are great. The infected look really good. You can tell the infected was actually mostly prosthetics in this movie, which I highly enjoyed. I enjoyed Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's been a joy in everything lately. I haven't seen what's the Marvel movie?
He's the best. He's the best part of Kraven the Hunter.
I haven't seen Kraven, but everything he's been in lately, I've super enjoyed. But I feel like the story to this movie is just a little bit avoidable because of how big of a jerk the dad is.
I think
I don't look at it as dad being a jerk. I look at it more as a father trying to pass on necessary lessons to a son that lives in a world of danger. There's just danger everywhere. You have to, and that's why he did that on the. That's why he made him do those kills. So that way.
Oh, my bad.
So that way that not only, does it desensitize him to, killing these creatures because that's all they are. And, still having that human compassion, you can tell that the kid, wants to hold on to something, but the father is not trying to push it out of him because the father has lots of compassion. If you sit there and look and watch it, how he reacts to the situations around the community before they take off and after they get back, he has a lot of compassion. But it's just that he does not. It's zero tolerance when it comes to these creatures. You have to have that policy.
He does, and I applaud the character aspect of the father, but at the end of the day, I'm like, everybody was like, oh, he's too young because you're not supposed to go out there till like 13 or 14. I think the kid was 12 or 11.
Yeah, he was 12.
And then the mom is literally dying, and he's kind of like, let me just risk my son's life too, and take him out there a few years earlier. And then not to mention when they get back from almost dying, he goes around and gets his son drunk and wants to get him drunk and probably trying to get him laid too. He gets laid when he's got a dying wife upstairs. And it's like, well, all this was just avoidable. It might have happened in a few years, but all this current stuff, at least in the movie, could have been avoided.
See, I think the reason I really, really like this movie is because it dealt with, it's a coming of age movie in a post-apocalyptic world, which you don't really get that very often. And I agree with both of your ideas on it. But I think the thing that really pushed me in the direction of really liking this movie is that the character of Spike, who's played by Alfie Williams, I thought he was phenomenal for him to be like his first movie, and he can go up against Aaron Taylor Johnson and Jodie Comer and Ralph Fiennes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the father stuff I think was good, but I think I enjoyed the mother stuff even more. There's that emotional tie between, I think you lose compassion for the father when you, like you said, Johnny, when you see him hooking up with the woman in the alleyway. It's just like, oh, so you're one of them,
Yeah.
even though you have no idea what's wrong with your wife.
I look at that whole scene when they get back as a bar mitzvah. You're not,
Yeah.
because they even do the raising of the chair scenario where they put him in the chair and they raise him up around the room and parade him around. So that's in some Jewish tradition, you become a man then. You're a man, and in that culture, when you're able to go out and produce your first kill, no matter how old you are, you're now a man. So you are allowed to do manly things.
Well, and I also think it's like an initiation of this world. Like, you guys are on this, like the British Isles, like that's divided up by the ocean causeway that,
which was a cool concept, a very cool concept.
The road, it's high tide comes in and the road disappears. And I think, like you said, when at a certain age, they take these kids out and say, okay, we've protected you. You have no idea what came before. Here's what it is. And that opening sequence with not with Jimmy, but like with when they take Spike out and they see like the slug zombies, I thought that was like, oh wow, this is like they're really going for it in this.
Oh yeah, those slug zombies were. I was like, oh, so that's what happens if the wheelchair people from Wall-E become zombies.
They literally just they were what, brownish, blackish white kind of, you could see color, and they just slithered on the ground. They were very slow, and you could tell that they were bottom feeders because the closer to the ground because of the food. That's what they were eating, bottom feeding food, which is worms and everything else like that.
Yeah.
The creature design, like you said, Johnny, was really, really good. But you have the difference. You could tell the differentiation between the slug zombies and then the rabid, like they're more like heightened intelligence rabid people, like obviously the wang and everything, but you could tell that there's different levels of danger and like what you can actually take on and what you can't, essentially.
I have there's a situation that occurs later on in the film, and when we get there I'll address it, but it's just, I had a couple opinions on my mind about how, one, we see a pregnant zombie and I'm like, how in the hell is that supposed to be? If she's been out here that long, why is she still pregnant, for one? And,
that I think, like you said on the outset, Johnny, and sorry to cut you off, Jay, but before I lost this thought, I think that's set up for the next one, Bone Temple, and the third one. Somehow that baby, obviously, if you think about it, that baby is now immune to the virus. I think that's going to come in later in the series.
I felt that same thing, that I didn't necessarily think of the people that are out there doing this, but the baby being immune to the virus, I know that would come up later on as well. I figured
like the baby being the cure.
Yes, that's patient zero with the immunity that could help fight it. Yeah. I'm not saying necessarily bring the people that were already turned back, but keeping the people that haven't turned.
That could be the vaccine.
Yes. Yeah.
I find it interesting that the new one that comes out, literally, I saw this today, that it does come out in 28 weeks.
Yeah.
Which would set up for when? That would set up for next.
The date is January 16th as of right now.
January 16th. And supposedly Cillian Murphy is back, and Ralph Fiennes is back, from what I've heard.
Yeah. All the Aaron Taylor Johnson, Alfie Williams, Jack O'Connell, which we'll talk about that here in a minute. And you said Ralph Fiennes and Cillian Murphy. Yeah, they're coming back for the Bone Temple. I don't know if, and Danny Boyle has said he's going to direct the third one, which I guess is going to be the end of the trilogy. So
I heard Alex Garland is going to direct the second one. I don't know if that's true.
No, the person who's directing the second one, which really makes me nervous, is Nia DaCosta, who did Candyman, the Candyman remake, which I think we all really liked.
Oh
But
yeah.
then she did the Marvels. So
Well, that's not her fault. Let's remember, Marvel directs those films. We all know that the directors do
Right.
not really direct those films.
yeah, but for a horror movie, I think we can agree Candyman is pretty well done.
Yeah. So
See,
that
this
makes
hearing about this bone, the bone, what is it, the Bone Temple? I didn't know they were doing any of that stuff. So hearing some of this and reading some of it, I've read some of it today, like you guys, and I didn't know any of this was coming afterwards.
yeah. I knew I knew a new trilogy was coming. Um.
I
So
will say this: the ending, I completely hated it.
The
hold on. Hold
parkour zombie fighters.
hold on. We'll get there. Um. So far, unless it ties in the next few, which I'm completely fine with, you don't have to watch 28 days or weeks later to watch
No,
this movie.
no, you don't.
And
So
see, that was one of the things that I asked, and you basically were like, from what I've heard, no. And then after seeing it, you don't need to see any of the other ones. They give you a good little, what is it, a 4 or 5 sentence prelude when the movie starts.
yeah.
And then we're back to the movie, because we haven't talked about how the movie starts. We've talked about how the movie starts with the two characters we follow through most of the movie, but I'm led to because we actually start with this kid and these kids in a room watching the Teletubbies,
Which I thought was
and
a great throwback.
they're watching it and they're being put in this room to be kept safe, and then a parent comes in and says, "Oh no, something's going on," and then boom, a horde of zombies come running into the room and just literally wipe out all these children except one. One is able to get away and run away, and he's running away. He gets to see multiple different attacks on different people, and he runs to his father, who is a priest at the church, and his father is sitting there chanting that damnation is here. He's welcoming the virus to come to him, and that he's going to leave once he gets the virus. And this kid's like, okay, and he just like leaves, and that's how the movie starts. And as a viewer, I'm left that, is this Aaron Taylor Thomas or Aaron? Is that his character as a grown up? But no, it's not.
Yeah, I thought that too, and I remember seeing that Jack O'Connell was in this, and obviously, we're in spoilers. He doesn't show up till literally like the last 5 minutes of the movie, and that I think that's a setup for the next one, don't you guys think? Because he like between the beginning and the end, you don't see nothing of him until, like I said, the last 5 minutes.
Who's that?
Jimmy, the one with the crucifix at the end of the movie.
I'll let Jay give his takes on what he thinks that is. Mine might get. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the whole ending thing, the whole movie for the entire film felt like this one long, just crafted story about a father and son, hunting. You're shown nothing but primitive fighting techniques. And everything is very primitive when it comes to the hand-to-hand combat, because you're not able to get close to these things. You want to shoot an arrow and do it that way, and then all of a sudden at the very end of the movie, it turns in my mind into a Quentin Tarantino movie where you got these badass assassins. They're doing like backflips and taking all these, like, they're using bow sticks and they're taking and chopping off heads and everything, and it's like, what the hell is this? Like, what is this? What just happened? And then whenever everything's said and done, they all sit there and talk to each other in this very weird manner that from the rest of the movie and everyone you've encountered through the movie, there's nothing that, I don't know. It just
So
completely different movie.
So it is a completely different movie, completely different ending. But can I maybe put the 2 and 2 together? This is at least my thought of it, because there was no explanation towards it, right? We kind of
No,
get a glimpse of what they're doing, of what's coming, because you see Spike kill one of the zombies they left over, when they left him upside down, and the initials were carved in and stuff. So, or Jimmy was carved in or whatever. But my personal take on it, and this might be I might just be way out of way out of the ballpark here, but looking at what were to happen in like an apocalyptic day and time and set, the end of times, everybody has something to look up to, whether it be a higher power. And I think Jimmy is the person who is like, follow me. I am your higher power. Let me save you and let me be that figure of light, if you will. And I think that's why he's got his apostle like crew, and they go out and they're starting to protect people, and he's trying to build up not necessarily like a church like following, but just like a following. And
See, that I agree with completely.
and
It was the whole action
yeah.
that went with
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah.
The action is what threw me out. The purpose of behind, I understand there are cult, followers, blah, blah. I understand everything you talked about there, but it was the way the action was shot.
Especially with his initials being Jimmy Crystal. That's just what I think he's going to be in the future films. Whether he ends up being a good guy or a bad guy, but I just think that's what they're leaning towards with him. Technically, like once say, you said patient zero. Well, I'm thinking as soon as things start going on the light side, you're gonna have a year one, and the whole world is just gonna restart, and you know what I mean?
28 years after, 28 weeks after, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well, and that would be a good title for the final film, 28 years later, year one,
yeah.
essentially. And I agree. I totally agree with that premise. And I think to sum it up, I think the second film, or maybe even the third film, is, you have just this Jack O'Connell character played by this Jack O'Connell character, Jimmy. Spike sees him as, like you said, some kind of savior or a god or whatever, and then it's kind of revealed that he's a sociopath, and then Aaron Taylor Johnson's got to go rescue his son.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also made me feel like maybe we're leaning into like a Book of Eli situation too.
But what if the whole scenario here's a whole scenario too, the pregnant zombie that we see that gives birth and everything like that. There is a point during that moment where the mother, because at the point in the movie, the mother and son get trapped in a train, and inside this train is a pregnant zombie, and so
No,
the mother sits there and helps the pregnant zombie mother, and they have a moment. It's like she doesn't see the primitive,
The rabbit version of him.
exactly. It's like a mother helping another mother out, and then the baby's born, and you know, so. And I was sitting there thinking, what if that is homeboy? What if he impregnated her before sending her out there to get bit?
who?
The JC, the Jimmy.
Well, so this is my thought. I'm like, what if the zombie was now this? I know this is sick, but what if the zombie was forced into that by the guy who can put zombies to sleep?
You think Ralph Fiennes? See, and I'm sorry, Johnny. Let me just tell you my thoughts, and then we can bounce off of that. I loved Ralph Fiennes in this movie. I think he was excellent. I don't know why we just continue not to give him Oscars or whatever. The idea that he's like covered in iodine, I thought that was such a creative move. I think in the trailer, you're given the idea that, oh, this guy is like a sociopath, and
Yeah.
he's not that at all. And I really like how it subverted expectations for that.
Not yet.
Exactly. I think maybe there's more to him that we don't know yet, and maybe it'll be revealed in the Bone Temple.
Yeah. But yeah, and I'm kind of wondering the same thing. Like, why was he also in such a rush to get the baby off of that island? You know what I mean? Because I'm sure he put thoughts in Spike's head to get the baby off the island. But I also think like, well, also the baby would have been loud and obnoxious and stuff for infected to follow. But
Yeah.
I'm like, man, he can put zombies to sleep with those tubes, those darts. Maybe he forced himself onto the zombie.
I don't see it that way. I see it as they got a regular, probably that they had Jimmy had sex with this woman, a chosen one of his people. You'll see it's a very much a cult like atmosphere in the Bone Temple, where he's like, who amongst you will be chosen as my wife and take and go to my bed? Because that's what a lot of cults are like. their leaders are very, everything becomes just sexist and it becomes weird.
Yeah.
And like kind of like the whole David Koresh situation. I don't know if you guys remember that. You might be a little too young for that. The Waco situation. But here's a man that was able to sit there and have multiple women that he slept with because they believed that he was Jesus Christ. And so that's what I'm saying. They're going to go into this one. And he's going to choose among his flock, and he's going to impregnate them, but also give them the virus and send them out and see what. Or maybe this one just got away.
That's
and
true.
And that's one thing that where you find out is crazy is that they've been experimenting this entire time with him impregnating women and trying different methods to see if they can create a patient zero baby. And they finally have the patient zero baby. And that's where the bone tipple could possibly go. That's just my interpretation of what
I think this movie does a very good job of setting up questions, but also answering them along the way. I want to say I feel like it's a complete story in certain aspects, but it's not in the idea that it sets up many threads that we are not going to be able to get answered until the bone temple. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's talk about Ilsa, who's played by Jodie Comer. I thought she was phenomenal. I don't know about you guys, but maybe a lot of people maybe thought it was too much. The idea that she basically commits suicide because she knows she's dying, but at the same time, the way I interpret it was there's no hope for this woman. She says that Ralph Fiennes is like, I have no medical technology to save you. The best thing to do is for me to easily put you out of your misery. And I thought it was maybe with the score and the performances combined, I thought it was an emotionally incredibly well
it came off as it came off as one of the more, I know it seems very weird, but it comes across as that this is the more merciful way to go. That
yes, like one of the things
what you could become, and if you continue on, but mercy, and that's the one thing that I think this world was missing is mercy. And
I think that Ralph Fiennes, one of his main things is that he iterates the term memento mori, which is Latin for remember you must die. And I think in the context of this world, he says that there are many ways of death. It's just which one is the more merciful one. And I thought that it applied that really beautifully to that scene.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, up until the point where they leave and everything, she's laying in bed for most of the film.
Other than her, when she kills one of the slug zombies to protect her son.
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome.
Oh, yeah. And then she just acts like, I don't know. I don't remember doing that. Did I do that?
You see, I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they didn't get they give an overview or an oversimplification of she has cancer that's metastasized either to her breast or her brain or whatever. But I thought originally maybe she's infected, but it's like a slower version of the virus that hasn't it's slowly taken over.
I think my whole interpretation of her, she has something that's wrong with her brain, because whenever a patient has brain cancer or something, it can start triggering rage and anger, forgetfulness.
Yeah. It changes their personality.
It's basically a person with dementia.
Yeah,
that's basically how it goes, and that's the way I took it. That's the way I took her portrayal of it, was that there's something pressing on some part of her brain that's making her hallucinate seeing her son as her dad, and then moments later being mom again and bashing the zombie's brains out, but there's a lot of layers with her character. And once she does find out that she got cancer, he can't do nothing. Like I said, she looks at it as a merciful way out than what could be. And that's, like I said, one of the few things in this world, this movie's world, that is not there. There is no mercy for a lot of people in this world.
Yeah. I think that you guys mentioned the cinematography and how it was basically shot on an iPhone. A lot of the Danny Boyle's movies are like that, where it's very handheld camera, shaky cam type things. 28 Days is like that. Slumdog Millionaire is like that. It's very much in your face, which I wouldn't say it got irritating after a while, but like there were times where like it was hard to focus on the action. If that makes sense.
I have one of the problems I have with the action. Every time I got over it real quick whenever he used that like jump cut situation. Whenever like an arrow would pierce through a body part and it would do that jump cut thing.
The slow motion, yeah.
After about 2 or 3 times of that, I was like, okay, dude, I'm done. No more of that. Okay, you're overusing it now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And here's a question. Whenever Ralph Fiennes' character's got homeboy, Wayne guy, Samson, paralyzed and everything, why don't he just kill him? Why did he let him live? What was the point?
He's done that. He did that. He did that 3 times.
I think that's going to be revealed in the next one. There's something to that where, like you said, if Monster Wang is killing everybody, why wouldn't you just kill him like when you have the chance?
Like he got right up in homeboy's face and even like he almost like opened his mouth and checked his teeth and shit. It's like, he did a full body inspection on homeboy and he didn't. You're no part of you thought kill this creature.
Well, remember, the dad said he was crazy, and the dad said he was burning what he thought at the time was regular dead people, not infected people. What if those skulls are just survivors or people that aren't infected?
Well, they set that idea up because like he tells his son about a memory he has of he just sees like rows of bodies and just one guy burning them. So yeah, like we haven't got the complete story of Ralph Fiennes, but in this moment, I like the idea that he uses his doctor knowledge that's how he survived for as long as he has.
And it's like it's almost like the infected don't go into that bone temple.
Exactly.
Yes. It's like they're aware of like how menacing he is.
Yeah. So
he's instilled fear in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Real quick, did you guys watch Johnny? You said you watched 28 Weeks Later. Jay, have you seen it?
I've seen it, but it's been a while. So
did you like it, Johnny?
28 Weeks with Jeremy Renner. It's all right.
Yeah.
I like the first one better.
Oh, you see, I had the opposite reaction. I liked 28 Weeks better than 28 Days.
And then I like, if I had to pick out of the 3, 28 Years Later, to me seems like it's the better film.
Yeah, I would agree.
So
I'm glad that, when the trailer dropped, you have it on our poster. Everyone thought that was going to be the zombie Cillian Murphy. And I'm glad that wasn't a thing. It was just kind of like a tease or something.
I guarantee it was a slight homage. It had to be in a little bit of like, we got you guys. We got you, huh?
Yeah.
Because he was an executive producer of this movie.
Yeah. And like you said, he's coming back for the next one, so.
But at the end of the day, doesn't producer just means he helped, put money up for the film?
Finance
it. Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite scene that you want to get off your chest?
Oh, yeah. I thought the night scenes whenever the father and son were up in the attic because they got trapped up there, or they got trapped up there for the night because they couldn't cross due to the bridge being closed going home. So they had to set up they had that little like. They were perched up and they were looking at all the beauty around them because seriously, there are some gorgeous night shots of like, and I'll get to it in a second. Like you can see off in the distance. That's when we find out who the man at the fire in the distance is. We find that out. That's just that this is a very pivotal scene because the son is inquisitive and the father, as you could tell, he's given a somewhat a summarized version of what his son should hear version of what's out there. And then whenever what are those antelope? What the hell were those, deer?
I thought they were deer. Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever they like run past and the cause of their thumping is so loud and heavy that it causes the structure they're in to start to collapse, so they have to run out. I thought that was also a very cool little scene. But then when they're running back across the bridge, the way the water is reflecting the night sky, so you got this like complete immersion of the stars around you. If that makes just the vastness of the stars, it looked gorgeous. It looked beautiful. The reflection. Those are my favorite scenes right there.
That causeway scene, like you said, where they're running from the Alpha on the getting back to the main or the encampment. I don't know if that was done like practically or is that visual effects, but like you said, that was a beautiful scene.
Yeah, I enjoyed the scenes too where they went back and they thought they were safe and the tide was rising and uh Samson was on his way like chasing after him. That was like kind of creepy. Was that the same guy? That wasn't the same Alpha.
Yeah,
It
yeah, it
was
Was
the
it?
was.
same alpha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um
It's like
we
he's been hunting them the entire movie.
yeah, we can start calling him D Alpha.
There you go.
Um but also the way the boy escaped was kind of like, really, if he can do that, y'all just y'all just suck at your job.
Yeah, that's true.
I really did though enjoy Aaron Taylor Johnson in this movie, even though his character was kind of back and forthish with me. I thought he was really good. I kind of wish he was more in the movie a little bit. And then the scene where the boy and the mom they find the doctor, then he spends his last few minutes with his mom. That was a hard scene to watch.
I
Um,
I
the
did enjoy watching them sitting there showing how Ralph Fiennes' character Bleach, does what he does to get the skulls. I loved
yeah,
when
Yeah.
they showed that process. That was pretty cool.
the pregnant zombie scene was also a really good one, very intense. And then give you what it take. I enjoyed the JC ending. I thought it was, I was expecting like I was like, oh, is Hit Girl in this, or what's going on, this kick ass ending. I had a few jokes too about Hit Girl, or is this the Malfoys before they go to Hogwarts? Um,
This is what they do for their summer in between Hogwarts.
yeah.
Yes.
But I give or take, I enjoyed it. I thought it was different. I'm pretty sure it's left there for different reasons, but for what it was, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a good movie. So, those are my favorite scenes. So
Some of my favorite scenes, anything with Ralph Fiennes, I thought was incredible. When obviously the emotional um, sadness of Ilsa basically having to leave her son because of her basically her ultimatum essentially. I thought that was incredibly well done. Outside of that, um, I agree with you. The train pregnancy scene was really good. Let's see, I'm trying to think of something else that we haven't got to talk about. I guess the first time Spike and Jamie the father go to the mainland and they take on the slug zombies. I thought that was like a great setup for the rest of the movie in tone and what we're going to be dealing with. Um,
I also like the hanging zombie scene. There's just so much tension in that scene between father
yeah,
and son, and not only between the father and son, but between the zombie that's chained up in front of them. It's trying to get loose and get them.
I think that this movie has a lot of rewatchability, which we love that as film fans. It doesn't help the fact that every time I see Alpha Terra, the skull and spine out, I just want to say flawless victory. You know,
Right? I was saying like, holy shit, we got some Mortal Kombat up in this shit. All
so,
right.
but overall, I mean, if you want to do grades or star rating, um, dude, I freaking love this. I guess maybe it was the theater I was in, or just the environment, or it hit the right tone. Uh, Cinematography, performances, the horror, the practical effects, the makeup. It really left me wanting more. And I'll say, we didn't really talk about or the Jimmy coming back at the end. I was with you guys. The parkour stuff, I was like, oh no, you had something good. But when Jimmy shows up with the crucifix and that's the end of the movie, I thought that was a great cliffhanger and a scene or ending to what could be coming for the Bone Temple. And so, I mean, I may be hyping this up, but I'm gonna give it a 5. It's one of my favorite movies of the year so far.
oh man,
So
um, I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't enjoy it that much. Like I said, I think it depends on the rewatchability and how it may hold up. But after my one time watch, I'm gonna give it a 4. I still think it's a great film. I still think it's an hour 47 minutes. I think it's not dragging too much. At least it didn't to me. Performances, jump scares, everything you said, Zach. So I'm just gonna go a little bit below and give it a 4. Jay, what about you?
I'm gonna give it a 4 just because the ending to me, that whole kung fu ending, it was absolutely unnecessary. We could have seen him taking him out. I don't know what was it about that ending that just threw me out of the movie and made me like, nope, that was just completely stupid. That right there took a whole point off of the entire thing. But there
We're
were
gonna
also
find out though.
hope maybe after seeing more of what's going on in the next films, I might change my grade to a 5. But like, oh hell, that was a great introduction. That completely changes the movie. But as of right now, it does not. It made it. The tonal shift is just way too jarring for me in my take. But the rest of the movie, cinematography, acting, everything is just brilliantly done here. And for it to be a zombie movie with a lot of Wayne going on, and it does have a lot of heart though too.
It does, yeah.
It has a lot going for it. And what we just seen here was the connective tissue that's going to be left leading us into a future of a supposed trilogy, correct? Of the
Right.
Bone Temple movies.
Yep.
So now we got basically what we got was the official. We got basically about part 1.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to talk about before we get out of here. I don't know where you guys saw it, the Warren, right? Up in the
Right.
Yeah.
balcony.
Yeah.
Were you guys the only one in that showing?
In the balcony?
Yeah.
There was like one person, 2 people in front of me, and then like maybe 1 or 2 people behind me.
Okay.
And
I
then
had a
below us, there was quite a few people below us because I sat very front row, and anytime I got up, I said there was probably about 20 people below us.
Okay. I went and saw it down at the Regal in Norman, and it was semi filled. I had 2 or 3 people leave the theater. I think those people had a different idea of what this movie should be, and it's not. I will say, going into this, and we probably should have talked about this. Do not expect World War Z. It's not that type of zombie movie.
Well, also, what time did you go see it?
I saw it like 3 o'clock, so it was like before the finals or whatever, the final game.
I think also probably a lot of people. The theater was kind of slow. I think the finals had something to do with that, and maybe the people left because maybe they were going down to Bricktown.
Yeah.
So,
I think people, we talked about it. I think people are really interested because this movie's already made its budget back. It came in number 2 this weekend, and it even outdid the Pixar Elio, which had the lowest grossing Pixar movie opening ever.
I also hope it's going to be interesting to see what it does week 2. But usually, if movies fall off week 2 like they do, this one may not even.
Yeah.
This may make $100 million total in budget and be done, if that.
Yeah, because we got F1 and Megan 2.0 this weekend.
And I look at it like the F1's taking the weekend. I don't know. Megan 2 might come in at number 2, but F1, after seeing the trailer on the Grand Auditorium screen when they showed it, I was like, okay, I definitely have to see this in the biggest screen that I'm able to.
Zach, did you go to the IMAX showing last night?
No, we're saving it for this weekend.
I almost went to go see it last night.
Just to piss me off, essentially.
No, I really want to see this movie. I think it's going to be like a movie up there like Ford versus Ferrari.
I agree.
Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed Ford versus Ferrari.
Well, and in return, and in respect to 28 years later, going forward, we have blockbuster after blockbuster. The next week is Jurassic World. After that is Superman, and so, I mean, I agree with you. I think it'll maybe get up to 100 million, and that'll be it.
I think, but that's just being generous. I honestly don't see it being top 5 next, or I see it being top 3 hopefully next week. But if the families just take the kids to go see Elio, it may not even, you know what I mean?
Well, you got to remember that How to Train Your Dragon is out too, and this was its first big weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think I just don't
Lilo and Stitch is still holding super strong.
I just don't see 28 weeks later being in the top 2 or 3 next week.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. If it has a good word of mouth, then it might survive a little bit longer. But if not, then
which guess what? Listen, go see it.
There you go. Listen to us.
Yeah.
We're very, very good at our job, so you should like listen to us.
Yeah.
Speaking of things listening to us, what are we talking about next week, Johnny?
Next week is the reconnaissance continues, even though he's only in it for a hot dog and a soda.
Hell, we might even be able to get away with playing his scene and not get a copyright strike. That's how short that is. He's in it.
It's Disney, though, so I doubt it. But Angels in the Outfield next week for the 4th of July episode. Yes, it's July 1st, but why not talk about America's pastime, America's favorite food, and chili
The
dogs?
NFL. Oh, sorry, baseball. Sorry.
Chili dogs are in the movie, but I can't wait. Danny Glover, Tony Danza, Christopher Lloyd,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
and Matthew McConaughey. So also there's a bunch of other actors in the movie. Some Adrian Brody's in the movie. So it's on Disney Plus, I believe. Check it out. Go find it. Angels in the Outfield next week on another new episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.